Hey, good morning, everybody. It's Wednesday, December 11th at 9 a.m. We'll start the work session. We'll kick it off with public comment. Anybody in the room have anything? Public to speak of? Anybody online? Okay, let's kick it off with COIC's request board approval of Crook County STIF and FTA projects. Derek,
Great. Yep,
kick it off for
I'll
us?
kick it off, and I got my partner in crime here, Michelle Williams. She's our fiscal manager, deputy director. I'll talk about the SIF projects and the process of how we got here. Also looking at updating the advisory committee roster. It was here around September, and we talked about that and just decided to put it all into today's meeting and have that go into one motion. Commissioners desire to approve those. So we are at the 2025-2027 biennium. So at this time, the advisory committee, Crook County Advisory Committee comes together. Alan is on that committee. They're working with Band of Brothers. We have a lot of good representation, people with disabilities, older adults, and public transportation service providers on that committee. And they met on October 23rd. They reviewed and prioritized the projects that you'll see in attachment A. I do have a list of these in the memo if anybody else needs a copy. And I'll just really briefly kind of go through some of these projects. So this is the ask of the commissioners would be to approve this funding today. So we can submit the SIF plan to ODOT. The county actually does that, and we'll get Brad to hit the submit button. But this is for the commissioners to take a good look. This will become the binding contract between the Crook County and ODOT for these projects. And then CET will carry out the projects starting July 1st of next year. And so the first project is a carryover program reserve fund. So these were unspent funds from the last biennium that are simply moving over into this new biennium. Project 2 is the program administration. So this is a lot of the work COIC does with the advisory committee, also the fiscal team on the SIF quarterly reporting, and also doing some outreach and engagement and promotion of the transit programs here in Crook County, which is the Route 26 that goes from Prineville to Redmond, and also a dial-a-ride program within Prineville that's continually growing. And all of those services are currently free. We're actually looking at a fare structure to be implemented hopefully by the end of next year. And then project 3 is the program operation. So this is kind of the bulk of the operation expenses, paying drivers, operating the routes, and just doing a lot with continuing to provide the van pool program, and also we use the STIF dollars a lot as local match for the federal grants like buses and things like that. We don't want to, spend $600,000 on buses out of the STIF fund, spending $100,000 and then leveraging that for the federal grants and some of the other state grants. And we do have some buses on the way for the Prineville dial-a-ride as well. And then project D is getting into capital match and capital projects. So this is if we, are looking at improving any bus stops on the Route 26, and then looking at if we need any equipment purchases, and then also for matching federal funds. And then I'll pause there if you guys have any questions on the STIF. Yep, that's it.
What, I don't see anything here about Juniper Canyon.
Yep.
That was one of our kind of highest priorities.
That is, and just as a side note, CET is collaborating with the library on the EPA grant for the resiliency hub. And so there are funds set aside here in a lot of these buckets if we chose to do a project in Juniper Canyon. And we do have one stop location there. It's not very frequent, but we do provide some service. It's just at the bottom of the hill, and it's part of our dial-a-ride system. So the idea would be to potentially expand that, offer it more days a week. We're just not seeing a lot of demand right now. So the advisory committee did discuss this. They talked about, doing some outreach, doing some more survey work. And I think if we get the resiliency hub funding, that would be a great hub location to develop a new stop location and start to explore how CET would operate there. It's a lot of gravel roads. It's a lot of Wintertime conditions are kind of tricky for some of our drivers, but I think we can, you know, our goal is to explore some options of being able to get those folks into town.
And it is on projected goals, there's, either 3 or 4, like there's a part, there just shoots that is not being serviced. And the Crook County, Juniper Canyon area is on those projected goals for that. So
So then, that makes a lot of sense. The only thing I would say is it might be worth starting to move the dial-a-ride up to the, Juniper Canyon Fire Station.
Yep.
Work with the fire
And
department.
there is a stop location there.
Okay.
It's just like one day a week, so we can certainly expand that, and there's funding here to be able to do that.
And I think a really good place to have that conversation is we're gonna have another meeting with transportation about there,
Okay.
about second entrances and exits.
Okay.
And I think it'll be really well attended, and so one of the things we did hear about at those meetings was the lack of transportation, you know. So I think that would be a really good time for you guys to go up there and ask questions about what they foresee.
Sure. Yeah, when's the next, should I
I
go
don't
to
think
those
it's,
meetings?
yeah, I think you should, but
Okay.
we don't have it scheduled, I think
Okay.
it'll be kind of late winter, early
Okay.
spring.
Yeah, just loop me in and I'll go up there and attend it, and we can certainly do some more survey. We're gonna be hiring a outreach coordinator position to help, you know, we just have had fairly limited capacity, but we're working on that.
And then the other question I had was, I guess, Charlie, do you have any questions about the veterans? I know we never really got to a full answer on that. Were we gonna kind of hash some of that out today, or?
The concern we've had throughout it all was the strings that were attached. And our board met last week, and voted that we would prefer that we be removed from consideration. We appreciate the fact that we were involved in it. We appreciate the fact that everybody's willing to help us. But we were very fortunate in that we received a significant donation from the state. And so we are pursuing the possibility of purchasing our own vehicle out of that, which would then not have the restriction of it. It only has to be that narrow scope of transporting veterans for medical purposes. We're also very appreciative of the county's donation to us coming up on 8 years ago. We have put that resource to, I think, very good use. But again, we chose to remove ourselves from consideration, and I did email Derek and Obi on that because we needed an answer prior to this meeting.
Yeah, no, appreciate that, Charlie. And we did have that project in here and up until last week until
That's what I
Charlie
was-
emailed me and said, pull it out. So, you know, we were working collaboratively with them for about 1.5 years to try to get this shored up. But I'm glad you guys found some additional funding. We're always on the lookout if we hear of other opportunities to get funding. I think the challenge was with the useful life of the vehicle. The county would have to own the vehicle and then basically lease it or donate it to Band of Brothers, and there's a lot of tracking of that vehicle, and it was just something that, you know, Band of Brothers was considering and then decided not to, so.
I just wanted to make sure we got that. figured
Yes,
out.
yes.
And I agree with Charlie, thank you
Yeah,
so much.
you're
because
welcome.
You guys were super helpful in the calls that I was on and
Yep,
trying to navigate the red tape of the state
Yeah.
of Oregon, it's never easy.
great, okay, so let's move on to 5310.
Yeah, so 5310, those are federal funds that ODOT receives, and then they're allocated out to every region, and those funds are allocated out to the county. In previous bienniums, we've actually had the grantee be the cities for our region, and then they pass those funds through to us and contract with us for those services. COIC can't be the grantee to ODOT for these funds because of some restrictions. We can't use those funds to pay for operation costs, and that's what those funds are needed for in our region. So we have to work with the cities or the counties in our region for them to be the grantee and then hire COIC to do those services so we can use these funds if they're needed. We're currently in that process. Our current contract expires 6/30/2025, and our current contract for this region is with Prineville. We are looking with the cities and the counties on who wants to take the lead on an RFP that needs to happen. COIC cannot because we would hope that we would be the hired contractor to provide transit service. These funds do not pay for the whole cost of the service, so we leverage other funds as well to be able to provide that service. These funds are mainly for dial-a-ride service. For older adults and people with disabilities, so that's really what the feds want to focus on with these funds. Currently, it's looking like the city of Madras may again take the lead on the procurement for the whole region, which is what they did 5 years ago, and then everybody just joins. Madras made the decision, it was awarded to COIC, and then we went around with every single agency into the contract with them to provide the service. So depending on what happens, Bob and myself will be reaching out to all the counties and the cities to find out who really wants to be the grantee for these funds. There is a local match requirement. My hope is we can continue, even if the counties are the grantees, we can continue with the cities and then contributing the local match required, because it's pretty minimal. So, total award, grant funds is $186,000 for this next biennium, and the total project cost would be $200,000. Any questions on those ones,
Nope,
that process? Okay.
nope, and thank you to Susie, I know you've been part of a bunch of this stuff, so.
So more to come, the application's at ODOT, they're reviewing it currently, it is with Crook County's name on it. But then we'll have some time between now and, summer, this next summer, to determine who really is the grantee on the application.
And Bob Townsend did, I think last week, did a wonderful presentation on the decisions that we will have in 2025 as far as fares, as far as safety that is starting to be required on the bus routes. He actually takes the bus quite a bit and has identified, it was an excellent presentation. He has moved from ODOT into the COIC, and I wish all of you could have heard it. It was very comprehensive, and again, there was a part there where Crook County was up there and Juniper Canyon, and he said Susie, and I was very proud to see that we were on there. So no, it was a very good presentation, very educational, and kind of had everything out that we're facing in the next year and our decisions that we have forward.
Expect some changes, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we're really looking at optimizing the current assets we have versus the service that's needed. And then also working with ODOT and the FTA on, can we get additional assets as well to continue to grow service for the region? So.
And the other thing that was kind of interesting is we finally have enough bus drivers.
Mhm.
That was always what they were fighting for, is they never had enough drivers. So that's one of the great things right now, is you have enough drivers, which is great to know.
Yep, and that would certainly support the Juniper Canyon efforts, because
Exactly.
we've just been
Exactly.
hindered by a lack of drivers and vehicles, and now we're seeing an influx of the vehicles that we had, you know, ordered
4 years ago.
4 years ago,
Coming
they're
in.
finally coming in, so.
So it's all kind of coming together.
Mhm.
Now, you have a motion here that you'd like us to make, but I'm
Yes.
wondering, this is a work session, is this a timely motion that needs to be made today, or is this something we need to take to court next week or put on the consent agenda? I guess I need to ask you, and then I need to ask legal how we handle this.
Yeah, I mean, you know, my goal is to get the stiff plan submitted before the end of the year. So I'm going on vacation on January 3rd, and they're due on the 16th, so that would be the goal.
Okay.
If the, you know, commissioners wanna put it on the consent agenda for next week, I can pop up here for that, if that's that's a more formal way to do it, or, you know, we could go either way, but
Yeah, I think you could be online.
yeah,
My
yeah.
guess is there probably won't be a lot of questions about it.
Yeah,
If we Put it on the,
for sure.
we've talked about it now,
Yeah.
put it on the consent agenda and just move forward, and then,
Yeah,
I mean, I would be available just in case somebody, you know,
Right.
if there's a bunch of questions.
yes, and I'll attend. I might have to do it virtually, because
Yeah,
my
that's
wife's in
great.
Salem that
Okay,
week.
fine.
Yeah. All righty.
Yeah, and then just to note, attachment C is the advisory committee roster, so we're looking to replace, Andrea, who used to be our director, with Bob Townsend. Our new director, George McCart, is, no longer able to participate. We've got Alan still hoping that he's wanting to stay on the committee. Yeah, he smiled, so that's a yes. We have Kia, Rolson, she's the case manager, for aging and people with disabilities, and then Ken Curley's the vice chair, Josh Smith, he's the city of Prineville. He's a director of, I think, their planning department. He's been our chair, and he's been great, and he's showing us all the, the improvements that are made in the city. We're also have talked about potentially extending Route 26 up on like Combs Road and to hit that north end of Prineville, and that, so we have some funding in there for some bus stop improvements up there. Because a lot of the people, if they want to ride into Redmond, they've got to come down and get to the bus. So the bus could kind of jog up north and come to them. We also have ODOT, I think, is working on a stop kind of over by the Wild Ride Brewery, a little bit east of town. So we're looking at doing a stop location there and extending the bus service a little further east. And we did just add a few runs on Route 26, more midday runs, because now we have more drivers to do that, and it worked with our shift bid. So we're seeing a little more ridership on that route, more flexibility for folks to be able to take it in the midday to get to Redmond. So seeing a lot of improvements in the system, more drivers, more vehicles. And hopefully we'll see some more funding coming in through the SIF program in the years to come, so.
Great
Yeah.
presentation, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Any further questions?
No,
Thank you, Derek.
Okay,
Thank you,
yeah.
Michelle.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, thanks, everyone.
Okay.
Yep, and I'll probably be on Zoom next week for that, just in case any
Okay.
questions pop up.
perfect. Camille, you wanna come up to the table or?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I've never done this before. I'm not sure what the protocol is.
Just give a brief little overview as to what you were requesting, and then if they have any questions, they'll ask any questions, and then just be loud.
Okay, awesome. Well, I am here to present an amendment that we got from OHA to adjust how we receive our funding from OHA. Historically, our funding has come through the shoots. And then as a fiscal agent, and then is passed down to Crook, which is then passed to Best Care, who provides these services. This specific amendment is for mental health crisis services. This is something that Best Care provides, has always provided, that I'm aware of, and there's no changes in the funding amount, so.
The short amendment,
Yeah.
very few pages.
Oh, yeah, OHA likes to really make it concise.
Richard Levin has looked over the proposed amendment and he does not have any reservations about this either.
No other questions?
No, and no super hurry, we can put it on next week.
It's not an urgent.
Perfect. Great job.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you, Camille.
Jackie? About mattresses?
Another wonderful recycling opportunity for the state of Oregon. So we were contacted by DEQ regarding the mattress recycling program that takes effect January 1st. It requires counties over 10,000 to have a permanent recycling facility for all mattresses.
Is that from burning them?
Sure. So I'm just trying to give you guys some information and overview of what that entails. So, and I was hoping to have more information, but the gal with MRC had to push her phone call off, so I don't have as many details as I'd like. But the way this program will run is now after January 1st, when you go to purchase a mattress, you will have a fee for each unit of $22.50. That means your box spring is a unit and your actual mattress is a unit, so you'll pay $22.50 for each of those items. That fee covers this program, essentially, that's the idea. So we will get a 53-foot trailer. All mattresses, regardless of the shape that they're in, and unfortunately, they don't come in very good shape when they get there. They're pretty disgusting, honestly. But all mattresses have to go in a recycling area that we designate. And then, my employees or myself will sort through these mattresses and decide which ones have not been soiled, moldy, wet, or have bed bugs. And we are required to stack them in this 53-foot trailer, and then we'll call for a trailer swap. And we will get reimbursed, is the idea,
For your labor?
for labor. And this is the part that I don't know the exact details. Each county is separate. They take into consideration the wage of our employees. And then, they say it's 3 minutes to load a mattress is the way they figure it. So they work with each county to figure out what your reimbursement rate is. And then it's our job to put together an invoice at the end of the month that says this is how many mattresses we put in this trailer. And then we should, when it gets to the recycling center, they assume that 10% of the mattresses that we have in that trailer will be thrown out for some reason that they find. So we might have an additional loss on the invoice that we send. And then, we're supposed to get reimbursed that way.
Minus that 10%.
Yeah.
What do they do with the mattresses?
So they will tear them apart. The fabric is used as other textiles. The foam and padding is used for the backing of carpet. And then any wood products are chipped up, and the metal, like the springs or whatever, are all melted down and
That's crazy.
used for other metal products.
So the
So,
ones that you go through and are not appropriate,
They
what
don't.
will you do?
so we will have to photograph and document the mattresses that we
What a joke.
don't deem recyclable, and then we can landfill them, and then there's supposed to be a reimbursement rate for those as well, but I don't have details on how that works.
Hmm.
This is a voluntary program,
Oh.
but at the same time, they require any county over 10,000 to have a permanent facility. So if they find someone that they deem is a viable candidate for a permanent facility that you haven't really said, yes, I want to participate, then they reach out to DEQ and then they push for you to become a permanent facility, which is kind of what happened. The city and I got a phone call the week of Thanksgiving saying, you have not designated a facility. Obviously, the landfill is the best option because you're supposed to be open 6 days a week and staffed, so we are.
So if I come in with a mattress, do I have to pay for that?
No,
So this is probably a good thing in a way, because I don't know how many mattresses that I've had to gather up off the properties that people have taken out and done, so. Now there won't be that many.
But when you have, so I have this gross mattress, so if Brian picks up this gross mattress and he throws it out and you take a picture of it. And then you throw it in the landfill and you get reimbursed, are you being reimbursed for the labor and the documentation? I mean, you don't know because they haven't told you what it
yeah,
is.
I don't
So
have.
you
the
could be
details.
losing money.
I assume we'll lose money, honestly.
So it says it's voluntary. Can we set this as a location, but then not do it?
No, it's required, as far as I know. I had John agreed to look over the Senate bill that was signed, so as far as I know, it's a requirement.
So most of the burdens are on the retailers, it's not voluntary for them, and then there's environmental stewardship program, whatever they called it, and the burdens are on them, and those groups just need to find a local place to pick the stuff up, and so that's how they're envisioning the landfills, it's just a local site, and it read like they're supposed to be fully reimbursed for all their efforts in this.
We designate our site to be not landfill.
It seemed like it was pushing for the landfill size, I could read it again.
Well, yeah, I mean, I know they want that, but I'm saying, do we have to follow, is there any loopholes where we can kind of push it off on Ben?
I was mostly reading it for like county risk purposes, and
We're not gonna push it off on Ben, they wanna bring their garbage to us.
Well, it was flip the switch.
there weren't any any penalties or anything like that, that we were exposing ourselves to, so, we wanted to push back, I could look into that.
But Bend is gonna have to do their, so basically, if it's a normal exchange, the Mattress King, I guess, I'm just gonna say, they come and I buy a new mattress and they take my old one. Then when they get enough, they come to the landfill and they dump all of those off. That would be a normal, or Costco, or a normal retailer, that's the way it's gonna work.
I assume, from what I understand is those type of companies will take the mattresses back to their facility or their parent store or whatever you wanna call it, and then they have their own commercial trailers.
Oh,
and
they would, so they would handle it. So
Yeah.
this would be really just,
Residential, mostly.
okay, so the volume wouldn't be on those with the big companies. We
Right.
would never see them.
Right,
This would just be,
our largest
Okay.
volume might be
how many? do
like
you-
Best Western when they
Get
cycle
rid of
through their
somebody.
mattresses. We get those, so
Okay.
that would be our largest volume at one time, but we do get quite a bit of mattresses.
Do you?
They're just not in the best shape.
So you don't.
We're not excited to handle them.
You don't
let's put it that way.
You don't think you're gonna have very many in the recycling bin, you think you're gonna have more of them documented and thrown in the landfill is what you're thinking?
Yes. Yes, they can't have been wet, they can't have been moldy, we have to screen them for bed bugs, so that means you have to look at all the beading that goes around the mattress.
Do you have bed bugs here?
I don't,
Coach thing, I didn't even think.
as
there
far
was
as I know, it's
bed bugs.
not really a thing in this area,
I
but
didn't think so.
but the thing is, like, they expect you to screen it, because if you throw a mattress in a trailer that has one, then they.
But I didn't think that was really a west coast, I thought that was more an east coast thing.
I haven't seen it, and I know, but yeah, we have to screen for them, so I mean, we have to look at all that.
I didn't, yeah, I did a glance over it, and it has
Yeah.
bed bugs, so,
I wouldn't even
Then
wanna
you
get
just-
near it if it had bed
I-
bugs.
and you can take a lot of pictures and not see them.
Yeah. Very hard to see.
Well, yeah,
It's probably a beautiful thing.
I wouldn't wanna be in New York and be looking for bed bugs.
Oh my gosh.
Well, they're there.
I believe you.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Okay, so are you saying we're just stuck? There's no way to get out of this?
No,
I'm saying there wasn't a lot of risk for the county, or burdens or obligations not with it, but,
Except if you're Jackie.
well.
but I mean, they were
But what
compensated for it, so I can.
disturbs me is that we're gonna have to get, you anticipate another staff person
Yes.
in 2026 just to be looking at mattresses. Would that be a full-time position or a part-time?
I assume I could use that person. With the RMA that comes in July, I need more staff, so I assume that person I would put the mattress recycling area right next to the actual recycling area, so
I
they
think that
can
would be part of their job.
bounce back and forth, but like right now, it takes effect January 1st, but I don't think it's required to have a trailer set up January 1st, because nobody's called me, nobody's went over the details, there's an agreement that has to be signed. But, I forgot where I was going with that, but
Could we claim that we don't have a mattress store in town anymore, and so they have to do it somewhere in Redmond?
no, each county is required, so. So that way we have
Yeah,
recycling.
because
for
what's she gonna
residential.
do if you have a mattress and you come up there, tell them to go to Redmond?
No.
Oh, I know where I was going with that. So if people drop these mattresses and it's raining, I have to have an area where it's covered, and that I don't have, so we're trying to think of a way to. I have a reefer trailer right now that's being used for some storage, but that means the guys would have to handle it twice. They'd have to put it in that trailer till they had time to actually put it in the mattress trailer. So
But if it's raining and they're driving in it, it's already wet.
good idea.
Just have them park, just have them wait 10 minutes. Okay, it's wet. There you go. That's all.
But then you still have to take all these photos, and that takes
Well,
time.
it's wet. And maybe it has a bed bug. I don't know.
We
Geez.
just spray them with water every time they come in.
Yeah, get a hose out
The only
there.
collect mattresses the days it's raining, so.
Right?
Leave them right outside the gate.
Yeah.
Wait till it's raining and snowing and then drag them in maybe. I guess I
What
should
a
have said
waste of
that on
time.
recording.
Thank you, Jackie, for taking this so seriously, but it's so offensive
Yeah.
that the state does this
Seems
stuff.
like the landfill is getting more and more requirements.
Yeah,
think
you
this
could
is the
just
last
put them all on the trailer and send them out,
But then you.
and let them take care of it.
What
Well,
would
I
happen
could-
if you?
so
did
if that
What would
happens-
happen if you did that?
If I do that, then they'll say, hey, you're not doing this program correctly, and they'll do that several times until they say you can no longer participate.
Yeah,
Oh, there you go.
That's what I read.
No, I'd say that you just figured it out.
But I'll bet you there's
But
a
then
fine.
Crook County still has to have.
Yeah, there's gonna be a fine. There's gonna be something. that goes-
Maybe the city could do it at the rail depot.
Good job for Aaron since he left me.
Yeah. Yeah, he already had some past
This
experience,
is now that-
past experience in
Yeah.
landfill.
There you go.
Yeah. But when
Maybe
I,
add that to his job description.
but yeah, when I have the call, I'll come back with more information on like the agreement. I'll have to have legal look that over and stuff, but I just wanted you guys to have a heads up.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jackie.
You're welcome.
I'm sorry.
Sorry you have to deal with that.
Something you have to look forward to in the new year.
Okay, Christina? And Stephen.
Yeah.
Good morning, commissioners. Wanted to discuss the modernization of our current ERP. Do you want that? Oh, if you've got it.
I got that, this one. So this is a condensed version of the PowerPoint in your packet.
Yeah, the PowerPoint in your packet included community development and some other pieces that we are not purchasing, so I wanted to just make it more concise. And thank you, Sarah, I know it was last minute, so I really appreciate you putting that in there. So this is taking our current ERP Naviline and upgrading it to the most current version that the same software vendor offers. So we're going from Naviline to what's called Finance ERP. So all of the modules that we currently have are getting upgraded. So we have the Finance Enterprise, which includes account payables, our general ledger. It's also going to upgrade payroll and our enterprise asset management. There are some additional aspects of the software that we do not currently have that we have wanted. And it's fantastic that it's all wrapped up into one system that talks to each other. And will also talk to NeoGov both ways. So it can get information from NeoGov and it can send information to NeoGov. Which will allow everything to finally be connected between HR and finance. So additional items that are included in the upgrade is grant management, which is something the health department has been asking for quite a while because they do have so many grants. This will integrate with budget as well. So they can put information in about a grant, it will house the agreement, it'll house all the amounts. And then if somebody puts in a project coded expense that goes over the amount of the budget for that grant, it will send you a, hey, you can't do this, you don't have any money left. Which is going to save quite a bit of time because right now I have to do that manually. And it also has a contract management module, which we don't have, but I would love because we're still doing that manually as well. It will also have purchasing and encumbrances, which will allow departments to basically use the other great part, which is integrated reporting and dashboards that can be set up more of like a checkbook that says, hey, I've spent this, but the money hasn't come out. And it will include that in their reports instead of them having to track it by themselves, since we don't currently have that ability. So we'll have less of an opportunity for a department to accidentally overspend their budget. That happens a lot during the end of the year when timing of things gets close and then we don't have real-time information for them to be able to spend. And sometimes they can end up over budget.
It's got the receivables management, which we currently do basically by hand as well. The other piece is some tremendously more streamlined workflows and approvals, including accounts payable. So this would basically get rid of all of the paper account payable system. The department would be able to put their account payable in and it would route it to Laura. So there would be no more opportunity for things to get lost in email. It would just revolutionize the way we do accounts payable and take a significant amount of time off of finance for that, which will create some great efficiencies. There's also access via a tablet or a phone via an app, which we don't currently have. And then it also integrates with NeoGov. And you want to talk about cost or you want to talk about tech first?
Go ahead.
Okay, so cost, as far as subscription and implementation, the first year upgrade, the subscription is $100,000. We're currently paying $70,000 for what we have right now. The implementation and conversion is about $250,000. That process is anticipated to take about 12 to 18 months. The really great part about this is it's the same company's information going from one of their systems to another one of their systems. And they've done this modernization with a lot of clients. So it will not be without hiccups, but it should be a lot easier than it would be trying to get it from one system into a completely different system. And data integrity will have a lot more confidence in that. The annual cost is $100,000 subscription. It increases 5% annually. And then we have a 5-year commitment on that. Another great thing is any payments we've made toward our current Navline subscription, they'll credit back to us for the new one. So that's really helpful.
Well, this is something we've needed forever.
Yes, yes.
So how much have we made on you said that anything will be credited back. How much have we already done?
So we pay about $8,000 a month for a subscription.
Okay, so what have we got into it then?
Just to this or to our?
You said that will be credited back. So what will we be credited back totally?
So we will have whenever it finally gets fully implemented, whatever we paid for the prior system will be credited back. So depending upon how long that takes, it'll be credited back.
During the.
So like
Yeah,
within the
during-
year.
Correct. So we're anticipating about a year of overlap. So it could be,
So it would, be 12 months times 8,000.
yeah, it's around 70,000. This was not budgeted. However, the county approved the local assistance and travel consistency funds, LATCF funds that we received. A portion of it to go to general fund and a portion of it to go to the sheriff's office. Those dollars have not been utilized yet, so they could be used. We chunked them out for each year, if that wanted to go towards this project. Otherwise, it's been going to offset other general fund expenses and the sheriff's office expenses. So that's an opportunity to help reduce the cost to taxpayers upfront for the ERP. And then I will let Stephen take the technology stuff.
Yeah. So I wanted to throw some acronyms on here at the end of really some technology acronyms to get everybody all confused.
Really know what we're
Yeah.
talking about. Yeah.
So from a technology strategy standpoint, when we're looking at systems such as like NeoGov, HRIS, we're really looking for cloud-hosted solutions with vendors. So this, in addition to being an upgrade to our current platform that Christina uses, we currently host that platform here in our data center. And so anything that we host here actually lives in 3 different places. It lives in the data center, it lives in the courthouse as a backup, and then also as our DR solution in the cloud. So when we migrate from something that we're hosting to something the vendor's hosting, that takes away our needs to host that. We don't have to host the application. We don't have to host the data. We can reduce some of our disaster recovery costs. We can reduce hardware costs in time. So that's a great advantage and why this fits into our strategy. In addition, anytime we go to a vendor, we have to ask the same questions. What's your disaster recovery plan? So Central Square has 2 production locations in their data centers in Nevada and New Jersey, and they operate at the same time. So if something happens in Nevada, their data center goes down, automatically switches over to the data center in New Jersey. So if they run in parallel, from an end user, you probably wouldn't even notice, essentially.
I did ask about how long they store backups. They store backups for 1 year. That means if something happened, 8 months and, oh, we have to go back to a previous version, hopefully that never happens. That is available. They do also offer additional timelines for that if we needed to say, hey, we're not comfortable with 1 year, maybe we want 2 years backup. They can do that. There's a fee associated. We haven't gone down that path. In addition, one of our requirements is that it supports modern authentication methods rather than just a username and password, which is real easy to get past nowadays. So we've implemented Okta single sign-on across the county. Okta will be sort of the portal you go into to access this application using that platform. So you won't have a separate username and password you have to remember, which is always good. It helps people get in the application and use it. They're not trying to reset their passwords, and it uses the biometric logins that Okta will be using. So. Yeah, just a couple items there on IT, but fully support Christina in this endeavor. The current platform is quite legacy, and this is much needed for her team.
The other aspect that I didn't really highlight on is for department heads to be able to jump in. This has the integrated reporting where we used to have to use a program called Cognos. And that program is on its last legs and only works on 2 computers, and we pray every time we get in to use it that it doesn't disconnect. So this will remove the need for that Cognos program. There's also other back-end things, specifically with payroll, that it removes as well. We won't have to use a DMS server anymore, and that one is also sometimes tenuous in dealing with it and trying to get payroll run. But the great thing about that integrated reporting is every department head can have their own login and create their own dashboard with their reports, and it will save them all, and it will be there for them individually. It can be anybody that we want to provide access to across the county with read only. So it really gives a lot more insight for real-time management and understanding of where departments are financially and just allow them to run their departments better.
I'm gonna ask a very basic question. So you're talking about the user and the passwords, and that's not gonna be, so I'm Casey at the fairgrounds. How am I gonna get into my thing then? Explain that to me.
Sure, so I don't
Basically.
think the team has rolled out Okta to U3 yet, because
Yeah.
scheduling challenges.
Okay,
So Okta is a web portal, and you
Okay.
sign in once, and it uses the same credentials that you use when you log into your computer. So
Okay.
that's one set of username and password you have to remember. So once you get into Okta, there's all these different applications, and all you do is click on the applications, and it has a trust certificate with that platform that says, hey, this is Susie. Does she have access to, Central Square? Yes, she does. Go on in. So you're not having to type your username and password to get in there.
So when you
Oh.
log into your computer, you instantly have access to Okta.
So you log into your computer, that's one login, and then you
Okay.
do have to log into Okta, which will use your, like we're using a key that does your fingerprint.
Oh,
Or I have it on my.
Or on your phone through Okta Verify, and then it uses like your Face ID, your biometrics. The biometrics in some form, right? So you're not just like, that makes it so anybody can't just use your email and password to get into something.
so, but it will take my email and my password to get into the application. Then I will use my face or my fingerprint, and then you have allowed me, like if I'm the fairgrounds, I'm just gonna use that department as example. There are certain things I can see,
That's
but
right.
then there's certain things that finance can see
Yeah.
that I can't see.
Yeah, the permissions within Central Square will be controlled by Central Square.
And that's,
The
Who-
integration
who
with
is-
the
who
login.
is that? That's
Christina's team.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, so in IT, we would just say, hey, there's someone new starting in finance, they'll need access to Central Square, and we put them in the group, and it Okta lets them in there, but then she would control what portion of what they let.
because if they were new, you don't wanna give them full reign.
Correct.
Yeah.
You would just say, and then as they became, maybe they moved up or whatever. Okay, so now my question to you is, and let's keep this very simple, what is this gonna cost us?
Yeah, so first year.
First year.
350,000.
350,000, do we have that?
We do if we want to use those LITCF funds.
Okay, and what are those whatever funds, what is that gonna affect out on the general fund on other, like you're talking about the sheriff's department? We know that there's a budget limitation there. What is that gonna affect
So
out
it will
there? in
not
the
affect the sheriff's office at all. The
Okay.
sheriff's office got their own portion of those funds. It was split between them.
Okay, so they're done.
Yep,
They're
it
off the
doesn't have
table.
anything to do with
Okay.
them. So it just has to do with allocation within the general fund. It was basically, we use it here, and most of the funds that would be affected are internal service, so it's kind of 6 1/2 dozen or the other where those funds get used. 'Cause we had been using them to offset salaries and internal service funds.
Okay,
So if it gets used to offset another internal service fund cost, the net cost of the internal service fund is still the same to other departments. Because it's just.
so we're
giving
not
us-
firing anybody to do
No.
this, is what I'm asking.
Yes, we
basically.
have the resources
Okay.
to do that.
We do, okay.
And we're anticipating such an increase in efficiency that I may
That
not
we think that we will offset
need to
that.
rehire
Okay.
the position that I currently have open in my department. So it will have some
So
other.
you think that you, okay, so actually you think we're gonna make money by doing this? My other question is we have typically in finance spent money on this thing and then it's been outdated or no good. Then we spent money on this thing and it's been no good. How long is this gonna last us? This is gonna be the answer to our dreams or?
Yeah, so part of the problem with why we were in the situation we are now is there were in the past some updates that could have kept the software up to date that were chosen not to be done.
Okay.
So that, my intent is to not do that in the future and to keep this up to date because it is also moving to a cloud platform. That kind of changed the way it has to be updated. It's not hard on a computer somewhere where you have to get in and update it. It can be updated constantly by the software company that owns it.
And what do those updates cost us as we go out?
That's just the ongoing subscription cost.
Okay, so that isn't, okay.
There should not be any
And
additional.
you
cost.
have full confidence that this cannot crash, because in Nevada, if it crashes, we have New Jersey, and if New Jersey crashes,
We have bigger problems.
and if we have Florida crashing, America's one go.
Yeah, probably a bigger issue.
Okay, so you have total
Yeah,
confidence,
and
okay.
as far as upgrades go with the cloud hosted solution, you're basically handing off the entire technology stack to the vendor, so they manage the, the hardware resources that the system uses and the software upgrades. And, a lot of them, some of them do quarterly upgrades and they'll send out a note with enhancements and bug fixes and, this is gonna happen on October 5th at 9 PM. And so they maintain the
Okay.
platform for you.
And are we going to be hacked in by Russia? Probably not, or one can never guarantee that.
Hopefully not.
But that's part of keeping, on top of IT and keeping on top of security and always looking at threats and part of why they're rolling out single sign-on and,
Mhm.
making sure, because it's both on us as well as on that software company. There are quite a few counties and cities that use this software. They're significantly larger than us, so that's nice. But it is kind of a two-part, making sure that what we're doing keeps our piece of it safe, and then they're responsible for keeping every piece of it safe.
So how long is it gonna take to get online and how does that going to work? Is it cutoff date switch or is it blended in smooth
It
transition?
should be blended and smooth because we're going from the same software company to another company, but I imagine there's going to be a hard and fast, we're done in the system date because we're not gonna wanna continually refresh the data into the new system. So they're talking about 12 to 18 months for the total implementation. But I think that's one of the things we'll sit down and actually look at a project timeline. There was a little one put into the contract, but it's not super detailed. The nice thing is we do not have a lot of custom reports that we'll have to run, especially because it integrates with NeoGov. Our current system doesn't allow us to pull a lot of reports for audits that we need, so we have to do those by hand. The leave accruals we have to do by hand, and the workers' comp audit we have to do by hand. And now that we have it talking both ways with NeoGov. So that all goes back to implementation may not take quite as long because we don't have a bunch of custom stuff for them to go in and remake that was already in Cognos. We use the canned reports for the most part.
Do we pay the $350 out one check, or how does that work? Or we kind of go through a phasing of it?
Yeah, it's phased in that contract. I don't think I brought a copy of that. I
Okay.
can't remember what page it's on, but it is phased in. It's like, don't quote me on this, but it's like 30%. Once we get things signed and get a plan in place, and then 50% once we're at certain.
And I think
metrics.
somewhere in there, it is there. I think I read that, but I just.
Yeah, it does detail that out.
Sounds like a project and a good one.
Yeah, I think it's something like we said, we've needed it for a long time. I'm glad you were able to and we didn't have a lot of solutions, and I'm glad you were able to find a solution, so.
And I'm really excited with the efficiencies that we're able to gain, just the access to the information for everybody, and then the efficiencies with workflow ability, and it can have approvals. Just like, I don't know, we don't really have anything that currently has a workflow, but
I have a question. We're not gonna get those financial reports now that are faded.
you will not,
And
no,
really teeny.
they won't. be-
And I look at them like this and I can't hardly, I don't even know if we're winning or losing on the that will be.
That
really-
will be a huge thing. We won't have to pull data out of Navaline and put it in a spreadsheet to make it
Yeah,
look
they're
great.
just impossible.
Yes,
And the other thing that I do really like is that department heads will know. And
Yeah.
that gives them that knowledge. It's just like going to the fairgrounds with Jamie and giving them this, just the facts, that this is what it costs and making them aware. I mean, that is huge.
it has
That is really huge.
a lot more integrated controls. It's got a more sophisticated general ledger system and chart of accounts, which is really helpful. So if a department head puts in an account payable and they put in a bill and they don't have any budget in there, it will flag a warning that says, hey, you're trying to put it in a line that doesn't have any budget. You probably need to talk to us, or
That's
is that
nice.
the correct line?
No, it's huge.
That's huge.
It's accountability.
It-
Problems for me. Just kidding.
Well, we're gonna have Craig see but
But you know, that right there is huge.
yes, we're really going from Stone Age to present day.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Christina.
Great job, both of you.
Thank you.
Okay.
It'll definitely be a project, but I think it's one we have
That's for
the best
both of-
chance of success.
Both of your departments too.
Thank you.
There are a lot of satisfactions there.
Yes, and I will be very excited. I'm so excited for that. Just watching the videos, which is. I mean, it sounds so nerdy to think of all the ways we can improve what we're doing, but
Yeah.
it really does make you excited.
But you're not nerdy.
I'm
It's
really
okay.
nerdy.
I don't see the problem.
Right, there are videos, if you'd like to see the videos of what the new interface will look like. It is more simple than what we have, but more robust.
Great.
Do we need action today or can the 18th?
No, I told them that we would have it on the meeting for the 18th.
Okay.
Perfect.
Okay.
John? Kelly?
Come over, Kelly. Come on over here to the table. Commissioner, so a little while back, we implemented a lease policy for the non-commercial hangars at the airport. That was meant to be a living document that we would update periodically as learn kind of what's going on up there to try to make it a more complete and better document for the county. So this is our update for 2025 that I put together. There's basically two real areas I focused on, and I apologize. I think the PDF that went in the packet was not a red line. It was meant to be a red line. It's the first time it's ever not red line my PDFs. Usually it's the opposite problem, but so I want to walk you through the changes if that's okay. If I don't know if you guys have the document out. There's not a whole lot of stuff. I did the easy stuff like replacing county court with board of commissioners, moved a comma, replaced comma, stuff like that. The substantive changes begin at section 2.01 for the permissible uses of a hangar. And this was in response to, so I'll just read off the line where it's changed. So whereas the bullet point about shelter for maintenance, repair, when it gets down to the example, so it's a shelter for maintenance, repair, refurbishment of aircraft, but not the indefinite storage of non-operational aircraft. Example, documentation and or progress reports may be required by the county to establish a definitive timeline to become operational. So in the FAA's guidance documents and the stuff they put together, there was a lot of pushback on the term indefinite storage, like what does that mean? They didn't want to put a hard line on it, and we didn't want to put a hard line on it. We did have put two informal FAA compliance cases that we're working on, and one of the issues was there were aircraft in there that were being worked on, but they weren't operational, and how long are they going to be like that? And so we did ask for these progress reports, we got those. And they're both in good standing now, but I think it's important to have that here in the policy so people know what's expected of them if they're working on an airplane. It can't just be forever.
It just keeps things active, because what happens out there, a lot of times someone will have an airplane that they bought as in pieces, right? And they put it in the hangar and they never get to it. And so it just sits there, 10 years later, it's still just a pile of pieces. This just defines that that's not what the hangar use is for. So if you wanna put an airplane in there and you plan on fixing it, tell us it's gonna happen in a year or 2 year, and we know what the process is. Rather than just abandoning it basically, and using it as a storage unit, so that's fine.
No longer being indefinite. The next change,
Is that required by law that we do that?
FAA.
yeah,
Really?
kind of, yeah, so I mean. With this FAA complaint, they were asking for something to show that it was not gonna be indefinite, and so,
So you have to buy another storage unit to store your plane once?
no, you're asking about if required by law, yeah, so that the tenants, you can't just store a bunch of airplane parts in there and never do anything with it. It's indefinite can be as long as you're basically making progress towards an operational aircraft, that's a permissible use of a hangar. But if you're just gonna store junk in an airplane, in a hangar, then it should be in a commercial, just some regular commercial storage space. And you don't need the runway, you don't need all that stuff that you would get at an airport.
Do other airports require this?
All
Yeah.
federally funded airports.
Yeah, and
Okay,
federally
okay, I
funded
just wanna
airports.
make sure that we're not gonna
Yeah.
enact this and then
No,
get a bunch of angry calls from people that say this is the only place in America that does this.
no, absolutely not. So these are part of our sponsor assurances, you know, the money we get at the airport from the federal government for
Yeah.
runway improvements. We're, you know, $2 million right now for this runway. These are the strings attached to that. The sponsor assurance is saying we will not discriminate, and the discrimination would mean that we let some people keep their airplane stuff in there forever, and then while other people are trying to work on theirs, that's discrimination in the eyes of the FAA. So just make sure that we aren't running afoul of what we need to do to get that money to make the airport better.
And so if I went to Hillsborough or Bend or any of those other airports, they would have you would have to go in if you wanted to store a non-flying airplane and talk to the county or
That's the way it's supposed to happen.
Yeah, they're probably a lot more strict than we are. to be
Most of
honest.
these things don't happen that way. Usually they rent a hangar and then they put it in there. They don't ask, they don't realize it until a hangar inspection comes up. And then all of a sudden the rules come to light. Oh, we're not supposed to be doing this, and then everything changes.
And I'll just add, Seth, with this, the FAA lady that is handling this informal compliance case, she emailed us recently and is asking for an update at the end of the week this week on what we're doing as progress on this informal complaint. Since this is one of the things we're showing her is look at these changes we're making to our policy. So if this comes up again, we better prepare. The next change is at section 2.04 for lease terms and extensions. There are kind of two issues with this. The first is, you remember one of the tenants that we had, his lease was up and we were not going to offer him a new lease, and he didn't think that was fair, and that was another part of the informal complaint. There's language in here addressing that, and the other issue was there was kind of an inequity for people that had a lease and their lease was up. If they sold that to the hangar, they could get a longer, the new buyer could get a longer lease than the current tenant could, and that did not seem fair. So at section 2.04, I added the last sentence talking about, you know, after talk about the lease extensions that we would offer, the last sentence reads, at the county's sole discretion, following either the end of a term or an extension, should the county deem the leased premises not important for existing uses or future goals of the airport, lessee may be offered the option to enter into a new standard lease, subject to an inspection demonstrating a useful life of greater than 30 years. So I could read a little bit cleaner, but the point is, if someone's lease is up and they say, hey, can we get a new lease, then between Kelly and the county, we would look at that spot and say, is this going to be important to our long-term goals? Do we want this spot, you know, similar to the FBO spot that we have now, or if it's, you know, near the offices, that we might say, we need this for the future, that we can say, no, you don't get a new lease. But if we say, no, this is okay, we'll give you a new lease, then they're basically offered the same terms that a new buyer would be, whereby if they can show an inspection that the property will be, that the structure will be fine for more than 30 years, then we'll offer them a new 20-year lease. And so the last change, significant substantive change, is down at 10.01.04. And this is the section that talks about the rental rates. And so the heading on this is a rental increase for non-compliance. In addition to any other remedy at law or in equity, if a lessee is determined to be out of compliance with any terms of the lease or this policy, the county reserves the right to immediately increase the rent charge to the fair market rent of general storage space in the community. And so this was another tool that was mentioned in the CFRs about ways to kind of use a stick to increase compliance. And so, you know, in this case, when we got the notice that there were hangars were out of compliance and we had the inspection and said, oh, this needs to be fixed, we immediately upped their rate to basically the general storage rate in the community, which is greater than what we charge now. So there's a little bit of a financial hit and a further incentive. And again, this edit will be shared with Mandy from the FAA in our response letter to this complaint. So
if you get it back in order, does it drop back down?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. It's not a huge penalty, but it's something.
Yeah.
And that's it. Those are the changes for this
I
year.
mean, again, are these all things that you're gonna find at most municipal airports?
I don't know how many are employing this rental increase. But like I said, it's a pretty modest penalty and just another incentive, and it's at our discretion. And so
So it's stated in the FAA grant assurances and compliance manual, it talks about non-aviation or non-aeronautical use. And then if they say the FAA does approve a non-aeronautical use on the airport, that we need to apply standard commercial rates, not aviation rates. Aviation rates on the airport are typically lower than a storage unit. So if it's gonna be non-aviation,
People
we need to
using
be
it for the
equal
right-
to
Yeah.
commercial rates. So they're trying to level the field.
and make sure that if that there are hangar spaces open for those that want to use them for the right purpose, which is.
When if somebody complains, the answer is don't. Green outside the lines and you're fine.
Well, you don't wanna make it storage wars.
Yeah. Well, I'm just saying, if somebody says, well, this is unfair, just say, well, don't break the rules.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we make everybody else follow the rules, so that's why it is fair.
Which are the rules?
We're not gonna
are
give you a
very
break.
clear when they come in, it's
Yeah.
not, there's no ambiguity.
Right.
Any other questions or?
Sounds good to me, Kelly and John.
Thanks.
So I'll clean up the PDF, Sarah, and I'll just send you a new clean copy, and it'll go on the consent agenda.
And if I can just take a second and just add on to this a little bit, just so you're aware, and I'll probably, see how things go and bring this up in more detail later on. I have a person that's inquiring right now on use of a hangar. He's interested in buying a hangar, and creating somewhat of a distribution center out of that hangar. It would be part aviation and part non-aviation, meaning some of his products would be distributed out of the hangar, out of a truck. And then some of it would be loaded on an airplane and taken in other areas. I've given this to the FAA for them to digest. And my thought is if I get their approval first, then we can talk about a non-aviation rate for say half the square footage, an aviation rate for the other half. And then I'd present it to you guys here. But anyway, this has to do a little bit with what we're talking about. And so before we go any further, before I really give you too many details, I wanted to make sure the FAA knew everything that we're doing and what the airport user is.
Potential owner.
Yeah, is looking at, and if they approve it and they think it's advisable, then I'll take
Okay,
it forward.
that helps to explain the rules better. Thank you, Kelly. Anything else?
Community development update?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, now with this now.
Yeah.
My
I
God.
know, you're right, so.
Sickness is going around and Rick's obviously
Are you sick?
I was sick last week, but Terry and everybody else is, we got 3 or 4 in the office out now.
Wow.
Yeah,
You know, you can zoom in if you're sick.
I know, I'm good, I'm not sick. I didn't say me sick, I
You
said.
might be hanging out with your jacket.
Do we need to?
Man. You guys are gonna get a booger hanging out my nose.
It's all right,
That
Randy.
might
I'm
be
not
less
scared.
scary than you saying.
Yeah.
You never know.
I mean,
Office, it's still kind of going through our office. I've had people in and out. so. Maybe I'm running away from your protection.
Well, just bring
Maybe
on the
we need
church.
to keep you guys out of admin, cause we're healthy over here.
Yeah, I just sneezed on the way, it's no big deal.
Oh,
Well, I mean,
thanks.
it was on your doorknob, it's fine.
Well, I said, oh, thanks.
All right, go. Well, here we go. So not a ton. It's November, December. We're always slow this time of year. Rolling into hunting season and even Thanksgiving, Christmas. So 11 new houses we issued this month or November, 29 commercial, 89 other residential permits, eight new outbuildings on residentials, 138 permits for the year, for the month. As you can see, it's pretty much average for what we did last year. And year to date's pretty close from last year as well. I mean, you're talking within 50 permits. Inspection numbers as normal have dropped below the 1,000 mark, which, you know, at this time of year, everybody's holiday shopping and doing that type of thing, so. Little slow there, but I mean, there's still almost 200 houses we're still managing under construction, 230 commercial permits and, you know, 750 other types of residential permits that we're managing. Through the department. Some information, we met with Apple and their new general contractor a couple weeks ago. We're going through their new, revisions on their plans to update, so. The other second half of the Apple building will begin to resume construction and finish that thing out. Which has been a long process for everybody in our team. We got a new data center, the one up on the hill, it's 61,000 square feet. It's gonna be up there behind, Proline Fabrication and the Humane, you know, it's kind of in that piece where, they're doing the new restaurant bar that's being brought out of the ground now as we speak, so. Some information is Rich, our A-level one of our A-level electrical department goals is 2 A-levels in the department. That way we can maintain consistency. In coverage, Rich retired and we brought him back on call though. He's 1 foot in, 1 foot out, and wants to stay. But with that information, we're gonna be doing some more cross training because our residential plans examiner just gave notice last month. And he will be going to Deschutes County. So we have now lost our full-time residential plans examiner, so we lost the A-level, full A-level, now residential plans examiner. What we're gonna try to do to manage the workload now, because the residential side is slow, is we're going to wait to, one, not hire the A-level electrical, because we still have Rich. Until we get some more uptick in some larger volume data centers where we're gonna be in a crunch. So we're monitoring that, kind of what's going on in workload for that position, and then Sam's position, we're also gonna choose not to hire out just yet. Rich is in there right now with Sam. We're doing some additional cross training to help manage the residential plans. Rich is gonna come in and help us with that. And balance it with one other team member, James, in the office. He's very proficient as well. So we're gonna juggle that for a while, depending on how construction goes, and then determine when we need it. So we're all kind of, you guys pulling some different hats right now. But we should be good. And then I'll cover planning and everything else too. You guys got any questions on the building end or?
When is the Humane Society? When is that dog wing edition? When's that supposed to be projected to be done?
You know, I don't know, is that, we've got the foundation in, we've got under slab going.
Sarah and I went last week and I saw that the foundation was done. There was a couple guys working out there. I just, out of curiosity.
Yeah, I don't have the complete build date. It's, I know that, Kevin Spencer and his team have came in and helped. We went through quite a process there. They had a big set of plans and then they've changed type of construction. They've done a bunch of different things. We did some revisions, you know, worked on fees for them to try to help manage that project, so. I can get a date or talk to.
Oh, no, it's just curiosity, just if you knew.
No, I don't.
Like I said, we just went out there and I just was curiosity.
Yep. And the apartments out on Matters Highway, we got some of those plans. We're working on those. They're doing some last minute revisions and changing some building sizes. They've got, you know, this building was, you know, X amount of units. They're making a few of the buildings bigger, which are just the same, you know, they've got 6, 8 models of buildings. They've decided, hey, let's add a bigger one here instead of the smaller one. That one's kind of been an ebb and flow for the last year. It's been.
By making it bigger, are they increasing the density of people or?
Yes, more units. So we put them in contact with Josh. The buildings are within the same footprint for the land use approval. It's just, instead of, 100 units in this one, it's 130 units. Because they're, And then talked to Josh at the city. Not a ton coming up on the city side for next year, but there is talk that they're gonna start grubbing the hospital property for the next set of apartments here shortly. I think by the end of the month. So
Is that going in where all the concrete is?
yeah,
It's not gonna be cheap.
no, it's right there, kind of, where the old Ochco mill
Mm-hmm.
was. It's kind of back up in that corner that joins the hospital in there. So, they'll have the tree removal, concrete removal, and then probably any soils conditions that they encounter.
There's a lot of concrete out there.
Yeah.
It's deep too.
Yeah. So they'll be starting that. Not a ton on the planning for, planning numbers are there. A little bit lower than last November, a little lower than the year-to-date average. One thing on the land use side, though, is they have and received an application for a 320 acre solar farm out Milliken, which would be just north of that old Gallup project. So Milliken, the project on the right, it's gonna be north of that on Rocher's piece.
Okay.
So planning department's working on that one. Environmental, a little bit lower this time of year. You got frozen ground and stuff like that. Site evals can't really be done unless conditions are perfect, which don't usually happen this time of year, but not a ton there. And code enforcement, open forward and closed two. So,
Great.
Thank you, Randy.
you're very welcome.
Thanks, Randy. I talked to Will. He said that Susie, you were gonna give his report.
Well, yes, basically his report is what are we going to do about Christmas Eve? What is our plan there?
I think it makes sense to just do the half day ahead of time because there's a bunch of departments that need to know ahead of time.
I know that in the case of public health, Mosaic is closing at noon, so they basically have to close because they have no keys to the building. So they would either be locked in or locked out, one or the other. So I know that that is a problem at public health, so obviously we'd have to give them a half day off. So it's what we want to do, and I would say to go ahead and do that, that would be my way of thinking, so. I guess it's just, do we make a motion? How do we handle this?
I think we just put it on for next meeting.
Okay.
On the consent agenda.
On the
That should-
consent
That should
agenda,
give us time for all the departments to know.
Okay, that Crook County moves that we give Crook County the half day for Christmas Eve.
Yeah.
It is possible that specific departments might have complications unique to them. So,
Would be the road department would be our only exception. If it was snowing, obviously, they would have to be out doing their job. And
so
obviously, the sheriff department can't quit fighting crime. That would be the two departments that I would know of for sure.
it's possible the DA's office and the clerk's office might also have complications. So, between now and then, if any of those departments do have any sort of specific concerns, don't be surprised, and hopefully we can get those resolved. on the 18th.
You have to be considered a holiday.
Yeah, I don't remember the exact magic words, but yeah.
So if they could contact us.
Yeah, no, so go ahead and work with Will.
Yeah. They could contact us and let us know.
Okay, anything else?
Okay, as far as commissioner, first of all, I asked for an overview of our septic tank removal situation because I met the Rural Action Development gal who does the loans. She was the gal that worked with Prineville on the wastewater plant out here. And so John Eisler did a wonderful job in doing an overview. So I did a little paragraph yesterday, included his included his overview and sent it off, so let's keep our fingers crossed that she comes back with some grant funding for us and, we do that, and that would be wonderful. Second of all, tomorrow is a 4-H association meeting. And one of the things is, we obviously need a 4-H agent in our county, because the one that we currently have has left and went on to another opportunity. And at this time, I talked to Casey at the fairgrounds and the 4-H Association and the Livestock Sales Committee and the FFA alumni are all willing to step up and help with judges and banners and all kinds of things. So tomorrow we're having a meeting at the OSU Extension Office, and everyone's gonna get together and communicate on ways that they can help. And again, Prineville is a very generous community, and it always amazes me as how everyone steps up and wants to help. And I'm very grateful to live in a community like this. And I had a third thing, but I can't remember what it is right now.
Okay.
I'll have to think about it.
I don't have anything.
I've been working with, Congressman Bence's office, on the secure rural schools, and we're working on getting a phone call with NACO today to put them on notice that we need them to be pushing for us as rural western counties to make sure that we get that money, because everybody knows how devastating that would be if we were not to get those funds. So, either today or tomorrow, we're gonna try and get together on a call with the guy in charge of the rural caucus and kind of spear them along, get them going. And because I had a conversation with him at AOC. And so just keeping on him to make sure that he's doing his job to protect rural Oregon counties, rural American counties. Hey, anything else?
I can't think of my third thing, so I guess that's wasn't that important.
Meeting adjourned?
Okay,
So, picture.
Yeah.
do we have anything executive wise?
No.
Wow,
The last little document.
wow, how wonderful.
I'm glad you didn't know earlier, you might have said something and caused it to us.
Yeah.
Like, I'm glad we don't have executive.